What's going on, everybody? I hope you're enjoying your Hump Day Wednesday afternoon so far. This is MYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets, around their roster, their salary situation in 2023-2024, some of the current free agents, and the strategy that the Brooklyn Nets could do going into this offseason. Obviously, we know how the season ended. The Brooklyn Nets, unfortunately, they pretty much started off with a lot of promise, had to make the trades with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, brought in some new players, but they unfortunately fizzled out in the playoffs in the first round. And now the Brooklyn Nets are looking at what they might do heading into this 2023-2024 season, and obviously the 2023 offseason. First, starting with the state of the roster, and this is courtesy of HoopHypes.com. And in an ideal situation for the Nets, they would still have Durant and Irving and everything would be fine. In the second most ideal world, they would have swapped them for another set of all-stars. Unfortunately, that's not how the star trades work in the NBA, since they nowadays involve the team sending out their stars, receiving a bunch of assets that would be good for a rebuild, but the Nets aren't in a position to go into one. Obviously, because of the fact they have a lot of veterans on the team, not a lot of draft capital because of the James Harden trade, so that took away a lot of their picks. Brooklyn still owes Houston 2 unprotected first-round picks in 2024 and 2026, as well as 2 first-round pick swaps in 2025 and 2027. So this rules out bottoming out in at least the next 3 seasons, so it wouldn't reward them. Obviously, that's a reason right there. We're impacted with the fact we can't bottom out going into this playoff because we traded all of our draft capital for James Harden. The Nets are more incentivized to build the best team possible and continue competing at a high level. They already have a great supporting cast. They just need that star power. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Mikal Bridges, who has become an all-star in the making with significant improvement he made upon arriving in Brooklyn, and he's also under control for the Brooklyn Nets for at least the next 3 seasons at a pretty much at a bargain. So if he keeps playing well, the Brooklyn Nets will probably work out a larger extension with Bridges going into the season. I don't see him going anywhere. And then you also have Nicholas Claxton, who is also improved as one of the better defensive big men in the league and is also on a team-friendly deal going into next year. And I would not be shocked if the Brooklyn Nets try and see if they can pretty much sign him to an extended deal and keep him around long term. And the Nets could be in the mix for the next all-star that becomes available on the trade market, and they can parlay a significant portion of their draft picks, veterans, and prospects to acquire such a player. That's if they want to go with the quick fix. It's not necessarily the best thing for the Brooklyn Nets to do is go for the quick fix again, because we tried that not once but twice, and it blew up in our face. Now, in terms of how the CBA might affect the Brooklyn Nets going into the season, the Nets are about to enter the repeater tax after being taxpayers for the 3 seasons, but they are in position to avoid it starting next season. And their biggest piece this summer in terms of free agency is going to be signing Cam Johnson, and they could do that while staying below the luxury tax, and it would make much sense for them to reset their tax clock over the next few seasons so that when they are ready to pay taxpayers again, they won't pay increased rates. That's, of course, if we can find a way to sign somebody like a Cam Johnson, the type of deal that he might be looking for. The new CBA is adding changes that would have made improving the roster around Durant and Irving impossible. The soon-to-be implemented second apron will restrict teams from increasing payroll other than resigning their own players, signing draft picks and minimum players. And the Nets would also been a second apron team that would have passed these past few seasons would have prevented them from acquiring James Harden, whom they did last year, or a couple of years ago, in the trade deadline, and of course signing a guy like Patty Mills to a mid-level extension, which they did a couple of years ago when they signed him to a deal. And ownership has been proven to be willing spenders, which could benefit them considering their tax rates are expected to increase at the highest levels, and they could improve the roster, holding an expensive roster and have the depth and future assets to sustain long-term competitive window. Obviously, that means they'd be able to add on a little bit more incentives and not be afraid of paying the type of money it is necessary to go out there and get the big-time players on the free agent market going forward. In terms of the free agents right now that are going to be available, Obviously, the biggest fish of the sea is Cam Johnson, who is expected to be an restricted free agent going into the offseason, because mostly the Nets are going to have a full roster going forward. But the Nets are going to be trying to see if they can lock up Cam Johnson, who I made a video about yesterday, talking about the fact that Cam Johnson is going to be their key free agent. And right now, if Nets are going to offer him the $8.5 million option, but obviously he's going to decline that and go in an unrestricted free agency. And right now, there's most notable free agent Cam Johnson, whose signing could complete their roster. He will be a restricted free agent who many cap space teams could pursue and throw a lucrative offer sheet at him. And Brooklyn is projected to be at $10 million below next year and $162 million luxury tax line. So resigning him will likely take them back over. Obviously, that means they sign him to that long-term deal, which he's going to be expecting. It's going to push them back over the luxury tax. And just about all teams projected to have significant cap space this offseason could be a logical suitor for Johnson, including the likes of Houston, Orlando, Utah, Oklahoma City, and San Antonio as the most likely destinations and teams that could be interested in the services of the restricted small forward / power forward of the Brooklyn Nets. And an offer sheet could start in the 4-year, $80 to $90 million range, and it could be somewhere comparable to players such as DeAndre Hunter of the Hawks, Norman Powell of the Clippers, and Keldon Johnson of the Hornets. Those are the three guys that are comparable in terms of what they could be offering going forward. Another one of the free agents going to this offseason is Nets shooting guard Seth Curry, who is right now, he has been extension eligible all season and will remain so through June 30th of this year. It is unclear where he fits in the long-term plans after changing directions, but it's possible he becomes a tax casualty if they don't reduce payroll elsewhere on the roster. Obviously, that means they get rid of some of their high-priced players on the team, namely a Joe Harris or some of the other guys that are on the roster making a lot of money and not really helping out the team or being long-term pieces. He seems like a logical candidate to be a salary dump ahead of this year's trade deadline, since it would have helped the team duck the tax entirely. That one confused me because when the Nets decided to trade Durant and Irving, a lot of people thought that Seth Curry could be another player that could be on his way out of the team, but the Nets decided to hold on to him, and now he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, so if you lose him, you're pretty much going to get nothing coming back for him going forward. The other free agent on the team is going to be small forward / power forward Yuta Watanabe, who, another important free agent who became a regular part of the Brooklyn rotation for most of the season. He could be looking at an above minimum salary for the first time in his career, and the Nets will be limited in what they can offer since they hold his non-bird rights, and they would have to dip into their mid-level exception to offer him a salary higher than minimum range. So the Nets are going to have to offer somebody like a Yuta Watanabe a lot more than what he might have gotten from the Brooklyn Nets this past offseason. The Nets are going to have to pay up for somebody like Watanabe, and I really honestly believe because of the fact they have to try and re-sign Cam Johnson, and I think out of the three free agents on the team, Watanabe is easily the number 3-1 out of the three. You can get somebody like a Watanabe in the free agent market, or you can go out there and trade for somebody like Watanabe going forward. In terms of the Brooklyn Nets and the salary right now they have on the roster, they are projected to have 13 players currently under contract, with one two-way player in Raquan Gray, who signed a couple of weeks ago a two-way contract with the G League Long Island Nets and the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets are also expected to have a guaranteed salary amount of $143.7 million on the current roster, with non-guaranteed salaries about $8.7 million so far, total salary at about $152.4 million on the team, and a luxury tax space of $9.6 million with an apron space of $14.5 million on the roster, a second apron space of $24.5 million, and they also have a spending power with a non-tax pay mid-level exception of $12.2 million. So if they want to offer somebody a mid-level exception on the team, you can offer them at least $12.2 million on that. A biannual rate of $4.5 million. They obviously have the Kevin Durant trade exception for $18,131,946 that expires on February 9, 2024. Also, the Kyrie Irving trade exception that they have at $4,494,702 that expires on February 6, 2024. And then you have Markieff Morris trade exception, which is $1,637,000. 966, which expires on February 6, 2024, obviously because they were traded on the same day. And then obviously the Kessler-Edwards trade exception, which is 4,494,702, which expires on February 7th, 2024. And those are just some of the numbers that are added onto there. And then, of course, you have some of the other players that could be on the trading block going into this offseason. So there could be a lot of maneuvering going on with this Brooklyn Nets team going forward. And right now with the team currently projected to have at least around 143.7 contracts guaranteed on the roster. In terms of their in terms of their apron space at about $14.5 million, the Nets don't have a lot right now open to go out there and make a hell of a lot of moves unless they try to maneuver some of the salary on the roster. Name in point somebody like Ben Simmons, who Ben Simmons right now is scheduled to be making $37,993,408 for a guy that's only played in 42 games right now with the Brooklyn Nets, and he's eligible for an extension during the 2023 offseason. But I'd be very shocked if the Nets even try to extend him and at the same time try to look to trade him, because he's got $78,231,552 remaining on his 2024-2025 roster going forward. So he could be a guy that could be an eligible one to be traded. So you have to be on the lookout for that. I mean, Mikal Bridges is currently making $21,700,000 on the roster with a remaining salary of $69,900,000 going into 2025 and 2026. Spencer Dinwiddie's making $20,357,143 going over with a remaining salary guaranteed of $20,357,143 so far. And you keep going down the line overall, on the rest of the salaries on the Brooklyn Nets going forward. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Brooklyn Nets. It's just going to be a question of what guys they're going to try to sign, what guys they're going to let go. We're really going to have to wait and see what this Brooklyn Nets team is going to do this offseason and the types of moves that they might have to make going forward. We'll have to wait and see. So if you guys like this video, hit that like button, give a sub up to NYG at JeffreyT85. More news, updates, and chatter surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. Turn on the bell for notifications of the next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. And you guys let me know in the comment section what you think about the Brooklyn Nets, their salary structures right now, how much cap space they'll have, the amount tied up to their salary cap going into the 2023-2024 offseason and NBA season, and what potential moves they can make, including their own free agents and trades they can make in the offseason, including obviously the NBA draft, which will be happening at the end of June. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Hump Day Wednesday. Take it easy and let's go Brooklyn Nets as always. It's a Nets world, and we're all just living in it.